When anybody, elderly, anybody becomes a steward and connects to the ground, they heal. It's just what nature does. In fact, there's a lot of med beds out there, and I think they probably work. To me, in my personal feeling, the ultimate med bed is good soil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Ground
Yeah.
on it. We spend a lot of time talking about the matrix, the reality, and while it's important to see it, it's equally, if not more important, to take those steps to step away from it, to create the reality that we want to step into. And that's why I'm thrilled today to be joined by Jim Gale.
Love you, brother.
Yeah. Here on his beautiful property, as you can see around us. And we're going to be talking about food forest abundance. We're going to be talking about permaculture, getting back into reclaiming our land and stepping back into our divine role as stewards of this earth. So Jim is the creator of Galt's Landing, and I'm really excited to join and jump into this conversation today. So welcome to the show, Jim.
Well, thank you so much, Justin. It's a pleasure to get to know you. Thank you for coming to these last couple events and sharing your wisdom and your light and your energy. Yeah, it's a beautiful time to be alive. We're here for a reason, and the reason is to overcome this, what we see in the world, this death and destruction and disease. And you mentioned it, you inferred it earlier, Bucky Fuller's sentiment: you cannot change things by fighting the existing reality. Instead, create a new model. Well, the new model that we're stewarding, we're not creating, we're stewarding, is the oldest model in the book, right? And it's just awesome.
It is. It's beautiful. So yeah, let's dive into it. So first question I got for you, Jim. So who actually benefits from a population that cannot feed itself? And what breaks in the power structure when a critical mass of people start growing their own food?
Well, I think of Henry Kissinger and his quote in 1974. He said, if you want to control the nations, control energy. If you want to control the world's currency. But if you want to control people, control food. And that has led to basically one BlackRock corporation that is really has their fingers in all of the food that, or at least let's say 90% of the food that we see at our grocery stores and at our restaurants, and it is growing with poisons. All right, so what it does is it creates a control mechanism, and then that is the catalyst. That's the centralization of food, which is energy, which is free energy. Nature is a free energy system. Okay? And so when you take food, which is what we run on, calories, and you put it into one entity and grow with food, then that has a cascade of effects of disease and scarcity. And scarcity is the ultimate catalyst for trauma and war. So what do? We do the opposite of that.
Right.
We grow food,
Right.
And we steward the land, and we have fun doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So many people wake up and they stop at the outrage.
Yeah.
They get real pissed off. They see what's happening around. You see the deceptions, you see the limitations. What was the specific hard truth that forced you to stop theorizing and start building a physical exit strategy?
There have been many, many hard truths. It's like layers. It's like peeling back an onion, right? You get tears in your eyes as you peel back the layers, and those tears are cleansing. And the one that comes to mind, the big one for me, where I had kind of my biggest instant awakening, it was in 2020. And back in 2001, I started a mortgage company that did $1.3 billion in revenue, and sold it, bought a boat, lived on the ocean for a year, and then started traveling. And I had time and money. And then back in 2007, I learned that the world is controlled by something that is the opposite of live. Something is killing our natural environment and the people. And when I learned that, I had my first two daughters. And for the first time in my life, there was something more important than me. Right? Most parents would do the same. We would jump in front of a speeding train or a bullet to save our kids.
Right.
It's kind of an innate thing. And so I started asking new questions. What's the world going to be like in 10, 20, 30 years? What's the world of my grandkids going to be like? And I went into a period of scarcity and fear and concern. And I became a student of the problem. And a lot of people are doing that now. A lot of people are spending a lot of their time every day studying the wars and the fights and all of these crazy narratives that are designed to take our attention out of stewardship and service and earth care and people care and into the little black box. And so it was 2007-ish when or 8 maybe, when I read Bill Mollison's quote. I had just learned about permaculture and I started studying it. And his quote is, "Though the problems of our world are increasingly complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple." And I started to sob. So that was one of the biggest moments for me. And then there's one more that is really relevant. And then I said, I'm going to focus my energy on the solutions. And the real estate market was crashing at that time. All this transition was happening at that time. So I decided to build a community in the mountains of southern Costa Rica. And the goal was complete self-reliance. And then the government came in. We were the fastest growing community in the country at the time. And the government came in and said, if you don't pay us 20 grand under the table, we are going to shut you down for environmental infractions. Now, our whole community was based in environmental protection. So when I heard that, it drove me a little nuts.
I'm sure.
And it pissed me off, and we decided not to pay, and they shut us down. We took them to court, and the court, we kicked their ass in court because we had all the proofs. Right? But the damage was done, and the community at that time, with the real estate market crashing, everything fell apart. And so with my tail between my legs, I came back to the United States, and I had invested almost everything I had into demonstrating a community solution that could replicate and solve the problems. Well, I got back to the United States, and I started a series of businesses, and all of them failed. And people say, what got you here? And what got me here includes a significant amount of failure and desperation. And so I got back, I started a kiosk at a mall, which was a living kiosk. We had essential oils, smells in the air. We had all sorts of plant life, and we were selling plant medicines and all these beautiful things. People would come every day and just hang out at our kiosk because it was alive. And then the COVID narrative hit. And I opened November 1st, 2019. By March, April 2020, it was done. And I had invested every penny I had. And I was walking and I was scared. I was really scared because I had bills to pay, a family to feed. I was renting my house. I had one asset, and that is this lot here at Galt's Landing, which I got on trade. And I really just let it all go. And I asked for help. I said, God, help, what can I do, right? And all of a sudden, I shut my eyes and it happened. And what happened happened to a lot of people. It's not special. In fact, it's happening more now than ever in the history of the world for humanity, is people are asking new questions. And they're looking for new answers, and they're open. When we hit rock bottom, then it opens us up to saying, well, our egos, we must not be doing it right because look we're suffering. So then what happened is I opened my eyes and I could see more clearly. Within 20 minutes, we had found about $30,000. It was a stack of silver that we had for a rainy day that we'd forgotten about. And I called my buddy, he bought it. And that gave us the runway that led to where we are now, which is 100% off-grid. And we have all the food, water, and energy needs all around us. And the most important part is community. We have an epic community around us.
That's so beautiful. And I love how you touch on this foundational point of alchemy, the hero's journey of hitting that turning point, hitting that rock bottom moment. And that's the point where we surrender and let go and say, okay, you know, I've tried to figure this out from a mental perspective. I've tried to do all these things. And those things are beautiful to go through that learning process. But what a gift that you were able to transmute that lead into this gold that you've got here now.
Yes,
it's
thank
amazing.
God for all these failures. I mean, it's amazing when you fail fast, right? I love failing fast, right? Okay, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna put all of our energy in. and then it's not working. Well, then how do we change that?
Right.
And how do we learn from that? And Bill Molson talks about this again, is make these adjustments, right? And so, yeah, there's a lot to talk about with our education model and the prison reform model and stuff. It's all based on failures and learnings and then keeping going.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Beautiful. Yeah. So I want to talk. I love the name that you chose for this place.
Yeah.
Who is John Galt, and this movement that is so profound. So in Atlas Shrugged, John Galt withdraws his consent from a parasitic system.
Yeah.
How is planting a food forest a literal, real world strike against the matrix?
Oh gosh, I talk a lot about Atlas Shrugged. There are two fundamental misdirections. I don't think they're intentional. I just think they're based on the belief systems of the amazing author, Ayn Rand. One is regarding free energy, right? John Galt developed a free energy system that allowed him to suck all these producers, or to invite them out of the society.
Stop them out of the world.
Yes, that they all recognized was going to collapse, and the looters were going to take all their energy and bring them into a hidden realm in the mountains, right? The free energy system is what allowed them to have all their energy. Well, that whole thing is a complete misdirection, because nature is a free energy system. It's so obvious once you see past the illusion. And I'll give you an example. Like, every fruit tree we've planted produces exponential food and seeds and medicine and health and wellness and habitat and joy and butterflies and so on, right? And they also produce calories, which is energy that humans run on. Also, you can take the sweet potatoes and bananas and different things, and you can do a process to create biofuel out of them. So nature is the answer to all of it. Yes. And the other fundamental misdirection or deception, depending on which way it was intended, is that you can hide from this. Because John Galt tapped all these guys on the shoulder and said, come on, let's get out of the system. It's collapsing. And let's hide from the system, and then let's go back and rebuild it. Well, I know a lot of people who are hiding right now from the black rocking of our earth, but you can't hide from it, because it's not, government is not the main player here. It's above government. And I don't know exactly what that means, but I know one thing, that there's some type of energy, I just call it evil, right? Live backwards, right? For simplicity's sake, that is directing this. Right? And that's what Sun Tzu talked about when he said in his book, Art of War, know thyself, know thy enemy, 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. When we sit in presence with GI, all the answers are there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that you're a huge proponent of presence and meditation, which I really appreciate how you imbue into your message. However, there is seemingly a consistency within the spiritual community to only focus on meditation and manifesting abundance without actually doing anything. So how do we shatter this performative spirituality and ground abundance in physical reality?
By doing it and having fun doing it and inviting everybody else to do it with us, right? Or with them, right? A completely decentralized message. For instance, we're here in our community that we built without asking for permits. We didn't get permission from the entity that is enslaving us. We do not pay taxes on our land or labor. And a government agent came here about 2.5 years ago now. And when I got word that he was here, I had a wave of adrenaline go through my body. I had a wave of fear. I was like, oh, and it lasted about 5 seconds. And then I took a breath, right? Breath is my favorite tool to bring me back. I'm always one breath away from presence. And presence is where all the answers are, right? So I walked through the food forest. I walked up to him. And by the way, I'll share a strategy with everybody listening. This is the strategy that we employed. I don't advise anybody to do this, but if you want to do it. It's your call. And I said, I walked up to him and I turned my phone on and my camera, and I walked up and I said, my name is Jim Gale and I'm recording this conversation so we don't mix up any words here. And he said, hello, my name's Alexi. I said, well, Alexi, how did you get permission to come on my land? Implied consent is not granted, and it's posted. And I expected him to say, I'm from the government and I have the right to be here, which is both legally and lawfully untrue. But he didn't say that. He said, I'm sorry, the gate was open, so I came in, but I will leave if you want me to. And that energy, and he was sincere, it disarmed me. And I remembered again that I was talking to a person, not an agent, right? And so I said, well, wow, well, before you leave, can I show you something? He said, sure. So I walked him over to the heart of the food forest, and I said, it is our duty to our posterity to be the caretakers and stewards of this land. And we comply, if we comply with your agency, we're all dead over time, as proven by every HOA community that you've collaborated with and designed on every one of them. If you go into them, you're using poisons. This is the worst part, right? Is you're using poisons on a contractual regular basis, which is killing all the life, right? The people are suffering, the animal, there's no lightning bugs, butterflies, bees, it's all diminished because of you and your practices and what you're allowing and even supporting. And he got tears in his eyes. He said, you're right, I'll never bother you again, and the government has never been back here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's profound, and what a powerful movement to come back to that reconnection space, you know, because of course the government entity can take over and consume people, and so we do have to be careful when we are engaging with people that are inclined in that reality.
There you go.
But at the same time, to reach out with that connective space and say, I recognize you as a child of God just as I am, you know, and so
that is something that I learned lately. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
You know, I've in my own heart, I've forgiven, really for my own sake, these people that I used to, I got that hate was always cancer, but I really didn't get that judgment is cancer too.
Right.
Resentment, judgment, anger, frustration, shame, humiliation, all of these, rage, pride, envy, they are all forms of dis-ease and disconnection, and they're not presence. Right? So I've taken Billy G, for instance. I said, man, that poor guy, he's got a horrible life. I have compassion for him, you know? And actually, I felt a release of energy when I said that and felt that. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I love to say to my listeners that if we want to sum up all conspiracy theories into one thing, it's all about disconnection.
There you go.
So disconnecting us from ourselves, from each other, from the earth around us, from our higher power. Yeah. So any act of connection is a revolution.
Yes, a revelation and a revolution.
Yes,
it's
100%,
beautiful.
100%. Yeah, that's awesome. So mainstream, I want to take a look at the mainstream agricultural model and how it's brute force extraction. It's using the earth as a resource to pillage and plunder. So how does a permaculturist view a piece of land differently as if reading the source code of reality?
Oh gosh. Stewardship and service combined with faith and courage and transparency is the solution to all the world's biggest problems. And we look at land as a living system that it is our job, our duty to nurture and to steward. Right? I just love that word, stewardship. And yeah, it's really quite simple. When you see something, I'm like, how could I help that piece of land be more productive? And here's the cool part is, it's very, in a way, selfish. It's also selfless because everybody wins, but I want lychees and mangoes and papayas and 300 different types of foods that we have growing around here. I want those, right? So by planting those seeds and giving them a little bit of love, nature does 99% of the hard work. And so what comes of that time and energy invested is exponential joy and abundance and nutrition and value for me and my family.
Yeah. And the reciprocal exchange is there because the earth wants to be cared for, the earth wants to be loved and cherished, the animals want to have food in abundance as well. So the more that we can employ that, it's a win-win-win-win-win. There's no end to it.
There's no end to it. I was listening to Zach Bush not too long ago talk about plants recognize our energy field, and they've tested this where a person can be coming from a distance, and before that person comes in the room, the plant will play a new melody. They will be uplifted by a person that they recognize as a nurturer. Like, how powerful is that, man?
Yeah.
That gives me the chills.
Sure, truly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're connecting with us.
Yeah. And there's one other point to that. Like, I went and watched this new Avatar show, and I always look at these Hollywood films like, what's the misdirection or deception in here? And I think some of them are really, they're so profound. In the last Avatar, it was nature that got together that won the war for him. Right? So it's like Tarzan. Somebody said, who do you think you are, Jim? Well, can I pick? If I'm going to pick a character, can I be Tarzan?
It's perfect because it's like no matter how far we lose our way, we don't need some book or guru or anyone to teach us about this. We just have our abundant Mother Earth right here for us, ready to receive us, ready to give us her love and to bring us back into alignment.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
It's so beautiful too. It's my salvation. You know, in fact, I went offline on my birthday on Christmas Eve, and I was offline for like 30 some days. And I got more done in those 30 some days. Every part of my life, my relationship with my family, my wife, the land, the amount of productivity and stuff that I got done in the land was awesome, right? Because our attention has been sucked into this little black box, the fiction, right? And that goes with the fiat currency and the cryptocurrency and all crypto and debt. It's all based in debt and death and crypt. And so to take that fictional energy and convert it, compost it, and buy fruit trees and build soil and build community and plant seeds, that's where the real free energy and wealth is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to transmute and alchemize these little black boxes and things so that they're pointing us back to what's real instead of keeping us isolated in these false realities.
There you go.
It's
there
perfect.
you go.
Yeah. So when you shift from the dead staples of the industrial grid to living sovereign food, cultivating from your own soil, what changes do you see in the actual frequency and clarity of a person's mind?
Oh, the good news is what I say has been duplicated over and over and over again. There's many hundreds, if not thousands, of scientific studies that say when a child plays in nature for 15 minutes a day, the resulting ADHD and depression and all of these things that are plaguing our youth right now is radically improved, right? When inmates grow food in prisons, recidivism rates drop radically, right? When anybody, elderly, anybody becomes a steward and connects to the ground, they heal. It's just what nature does. In fact, you know, there's a lot of med beds out there, and I think they probably work. To me, in my personal feeling, the ultimate med bed is good soil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Grounded on it.
Yep.
And so to the people who think, well, I can just go let some industrial company grow my food and consume in that way, what's the difference between consuming foods grown in the earth yourself versus buying something in a store?
It's so profound. First of all, it has more nutrient density, right? It's radically healthier. It tastes completely different. You know, growing up with the garden, my mom was a gardener, she was a farmer, and we'd go out in the garden with a salt shaker and we would just eat tomatoes and just, oh God, was that good, right? Now you go get a tomato at the store, it kind of tastes like plastic. It just doesn't taste like a tomato, right? So in every conceivable way, it's better. Plus, there's so many layers. It's also the cost. Like, we have a lot of chicken eggs. And the cost for us of a chicken egg is probably 10% of the cost if we were to buy it at the store, right? The cost for us if you look at the time and energy that it took to buy a tree and plant a tree and dig a hole and put soil around it, now you're talking about a 90+% reduction in cost and improvement in benefits.
Yeah. So a big limitation for people to step away from the reality of buying all my food in a store is just that fear, you know, the fear to keep the fear of that limitation. So what would you say is the primary barrier or unexamined assumption keeping them from stepping away from that? Awareness
of it. Awareness. So the word choice is almost always misused because you say, oh, he had a choice in the matter. Well, if a person is not aware of a choice, then there is no choice, right? So the first thing to do is to create awareness. So how do we do that? I've been asking these questions obsessively, and now lovingly obsessively, and not even obsessively, just lovingly for 2 decades. And what I've come to is what Gandhi came to a long time ago. Be the change that you want to see in the world.
Yeah. Truly. And
Yeah.
and you do that so well with yeah, I'd love for you to share more about kind of the way that you've set up the school here
Oh,
and what you're
gosh.
bringing people in to teach and how that's because that's a huge part of it is just the awareness. Maybe not everyone can start with a huge plot of land, but everyone's got a mind and a way to engage on a topic. So
Right.
if you could expand on that, that'd be lovely.
One of the things I heard in the permaculture world a while back is where do you start your garden? Well, if you have a back door, 1 foot outside your back door. If you don't have a back door and you don't have any land, then 1 foot on your counter, right? Grow microgreens, grow mushrooms, grow whatever, and let the plants, because the plants have so many functions. You can look up what plants filter your air, what plants filter your water, what plants create smells, right? Aloe, I mean, that has such a mega benefit, right? It's like a medicine of the gods. And so you ask, what functionality do I want in my house? Aloe plants take, I mean, literally, if you water them once every great while, they will thrive, right? And then here's how you tell. You observe and interact. You look at it. Just look at it and ask it for fun. Just looking is good enough, but say, hey, what can I do for you? And then take a breath and sit in silence. And when you do that and you ask, all of a sudden you might notice something about the plant. Maybe it's got some brown edges, or maybe it's got some yellowing or some curling. Then if you don't know what to do about it, there are so many organizations where you can take a picture or a 10-second video, post it on a Facebook page or wherever, and you will get sometimes so many answers, and most of them will be really good. And then you can say, okay, boom. So it just took you 2 minutes to learn from the plant what the plant is telling you, and then to solve the problem, to be the steward and the caretaker of that living system. And then a tiny bit of care produces a lot of good out of it.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I'd love for you to speak a bit more for those who do have a plot of land or are getting ready to engage in community. So just to really emphasize that this is a very independent, sovereign space, including the sewage system that you have set up here. So I'd love if you could speak on that a bit more, because that's a really exciting, very revolutionary idea to put forward.
Yes, thank you to Jaime and Gracie for bringing it to me. So the sewage system, our black water, gray water septic tank, it's a long story how it came to be, but bottom line is these people showed up at the exact right time when our other septic system was put in bad and it was failing and we didn't have the money to buy a new one. And they came on a tour, and I shared with them what we have going on, and they got so inspired that they sent 2 of them on a plane from Colombia. And this system takes up about 20% of the space of a standard system. It costs about half as much of a standard system, and the byproduct is plant food, right? So and you inoculate it with living microbiome like soilsaviors.org, and there's other ones out there where you put this living microbiome in there, and that creates the environment with the honeycomb structure they have in the system for rapid decomposition.
Wow.
And then we've dug a series of 4 ponds, and this is extra. I just did this because I had the idea to do this on Christmas Eve, and it's one of the projects that I got done in that. We now have a series of 4 ponds, hand dug, and we put plant filters in there, like water hyacinth, which is an illegal plant in Florida to have in your water or your car, right? Which is insane because it's actually one of the most important plants in Florida. And so now we've got this series of ponds, and we're planting food and flowers, and it is the healthiest piece of land on our whole property thanks to our waste.
That's perfect. And even the name water hyacinth, like hyacinth, the flower is typically purple.
Yes.
So it's that purple divine gift to give us that purity. It's beautiful.
Yep, it's beautiful, and the Florida and many other places use hundreds, like, I don't know, the numbers of gallons of poisons that they're spraying on our water because of this plant as their poster child for invasive, which is a complete lie, is incredible. It's horrible, and it's killing everything that it touches. You know, the fisheries and everything are dying. Well, that's the problem. The solution is to let it grow. And when it grows, it's a filter feeder. So it takes the particulates out of the water and it puts them in the flower and the plant. And then you can create an extraction system like they've done in many places. And now you've got your soil amendment. Wow. So you can use this system, which is just a simple conveyor belt, into big trucks. And you can fill up these big trucks with water hyacinth, drive that to a place that needs soil amending, and you just figured it out.
Nature's got the perfect
Nature
answer.
is
Always.
the answer. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So I wanna leave with an action for the audience. So for the person listening, maybe in a suburban house with a dead grass lawn, what is the exact high leverage action they can take in the next 24 hours to begin reclaiming their sovereignty?
Go right now to a local nursery and look around, ask some questions, and buy as many plants as you feel like buying. And then start putting them in your living space. They will lift your energy, the frequency, energy, vibration. Plus you can eat them in some cases. You can use them for skin healing like aloe. There's so many things you could do. But the main thing is to start becoming a producer as well as a consumer right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you said that breath is so important, and breath and earth have the same words in it because it's so foundational. And she brings us that breath of life.
That's it.
That air quality is so important.
Exactly. And the fiat dollar is collapsing rapidly right now. So I call it composting the fiat, right? Fiat. So take that fiat dollar and buy life with it. And then that life will go up in value with just a little bit of care and energy, which, by the way, is not a time liability. It's a time asset. The care for people and planet is the ultimate service. People who are caring for other people or caring for nature are not depressed. They're not suicidal. They have fewer diseases by far.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, curious, where can people find you and learn more about and come visit if they'd like?
Yeah, if people want to come visit, they can come to galtslanding.farm. So GALTS landing.farm. We also have, there's a team of people at an entity called Food Forest Abundance. I founded this entity and I handed it all over, all of my equity in all these companies and all these businesses, to the stewardship of Origins Reclaimed and a council of people. People like Joel Salatin and Theo Fleury and Pat Militich and Dr. Will Spencer, people who have been living and proving it for a long time. And our intent is to demonstrate in permaculture, the ethics are people care, earth care, and reinvesting our surplus to people care and earth care, right? So for me, I've got enough. I do want to finish our house. It's not quite, and I want to get a pool in, right? And so I've saved some equity in the school, which I'll talk real briefly about.
Yeah, of course.
And so that's what I want out of it. Plus, I eventually want like a debit card with the equivalent of about $5,000 a month. My bills living this way, we could live on a lot less than that. Actually, we could live on nothing, on no financial income. We would lose our car, but we don't even need a car, right? In fact, I don't leave sometime for 2 weeks. I love it here so much. So my goal is to share constantly in logical, strategic ways and transparently every solution and idea that comes through when I ask new questions, like the prison reform model. That is so epically powerful, and it's very simple. Let's get all the inmates growing food. The school reform model is incredible, right? The Food Forest Abundance team at foodforestabundance.com can help with all of these things. And then originsreclaimed.org is a not-for-profit. So to the school, the Bigfoot, the Family Fellowship, we have designed this school to support homeschoolers. So to support the moms and dads who want to take their kids out of the indoctrination system and have them really learning again. My daughter Sophie is 6 years old, and she says, Daddy, when does school start again? She loves going to school. In the last week and a half or so, she's been to jujitsu practice, basketball practice, tennis practice. She's learned how to make applesauce and other meals with a chef. She has had, there's several other things. It's real school, right? And her confidence is going through the roof. She's so happy. And this school, so here's what the model does. First of all, we help people become aware that the state has the money. So you could get 10 kids in a neighborhood and you'd get $100,000 from the state here in Florida and 9 other states. Even if it's a private school where that is paid for by the family, normally a private school is a lot more than that. But here's where it gets epic, is our students are practicing planting seeds and growing food and stewardship. So the results of their actions, not only are they learning the most important thing they could learn, and that's how to create health and wellness and abundance, but they're also learning entrepreneurship with that. So they're learning stewardship and service and entrepreneurship together at school. So we create awareness that it's possible. We support people in all the paperwork. And by the way, it's a not-for-profit, right? So what happens if the state says, okay, here's 10,000, 1,000 goes back to the not-for-profit.
Wow.
So we help people get 10,000 in a request in exchange of value. 1,000 comes back to the not-for-profit, and then we help them with all the paperwork. Then we create a curriculum library where we bring in the best teachers in the world. So our kids are online like 45 minutes a day. The rest of the time they're out doing it.
Wow.
Right? And they can learn these incredible tools like Joe Salton talking about chickens or beehives or whatever, right? And then the final thing is we're creating the network so people can find the people in their area. Like this basketball coach, the tennis coach, the chef that we have teaching our kids how to cook. They are world class or really, really good at what they do. Why are they doing it for $75 that the state pays for in this case? Because they want to.
Right.
Because it's fun.
Right.
Right? So it's like this epic win-win-win thing. The awareness, the paperwork, the curriculum library, and then the support network where everybody has the tools that they need to go in their neighborhood and their community and put together all of these groups. And then every living room, you can have 10 kids in your living room or 3 or 4 or whatever makes sense. And you can have a teacher there. And it's all right there. So we decentralize food, water, energy, schooling, and that also takes out the medical system that's controlled.
Right. Beautiful. It is really exciting to see the level of impact that this can have, because when we start, especially when we start with our children, the possibilities are endless.
Endless.
So this is absolutely beautiful. I've really enjoyed this conversation today, and I just wanted to ask you, is there anything else that you want to share with the audience? Anything else that we didn't touch on that you'd like to impart?
I'd just like to invite everybody to participate. Right? This is the time right now where participation is going exponential. Be a producer. Everything we share is open source. So if you just want to do this on your own, you'll figure out, you'll do it, and it'll be great. And then share your results with us so we can incorporate and cherry pick, okay, that works and that doesn't, right? Let's learn together. If you want to come together as a community, if you want to financially support this movement, and by the way, we are regenerating all the funds. Reinvesting the surplus to earth care and people care is fundamental in what we do, and we're doing it very transparently, right? So people can see the regenerative projects, like working with the local halfway house, transitioning their backyard into a food production healing paradise, and then creating a business of soil regeneration right out of this halfway house backyard. So that kind of thing is what we want to fund. We want to put our energy and direction towards that, and lift up the most suffering among us, and lift up and teach the kids, and then the golden age is here.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah.
Wow. Guys, this has been incredible. Jim, you are an inspiring figure. It is wonderful to be, and this is him 24/7. He never stops. He's always pouring more effort, more intention into making this a fun experience. And I love how you imbue that into your whole message. It's so important.
Follow your bliss.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So let's take this message and let's let it inspire us. Let's plant those seeds. Let's plant the seeds within with the ideas. Let's let them flourish into action. Let's plant the seeds by spreading this message online, sharing your results, sharing your fast failures, because there is no such thing as failure. They're just opportunities for us to grow in better ways. So
Yep.
thank you, Jim, for coming
Oh,
on.
thank you, brother. Love you, man.